Good morning, everyone. And it's Friday morning, which means it's Voice Chat Fridays with Shamala Prayaga, who is not only the CEO and founder of the Digital Assistant Academy, focused on training our next generation of voice designers, but she is also the head of Ford's autonomous vehicle line, creating a conversational AI for that product. So she's got lots of hats to wear. So welcome again, Shamala. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Lee. It's my pleasure.
Oh, please. And then the other thing that she's doing is she's got this hackathon thing going on top because she doesn't have enough to do in two full-time jobs. She decided to start a hackathon. So can you just give everybody a reminder what that's all about? I think the deadline is over. Now we're looking for sponsors. Is that where we're
Yeah, so
at?
the time we still have time till Monday, which is
Oh,
just approaching, and we have around like 120 plus participants from all over the world. And now we are looking for sponsors. We have Amazon on board. We also have Job Fair as a part of our hackathon because what I believe is it's not just, doing the collaboration and creating a problem and all of those things, but there has to be more value with it. And that is why what we have done is collaborated with companies for different things. So we have one judge from Amazon as well in our list, which is great. But we also have the Amazon hiring team who will be doing job fair with us. So whoever is participating in the hackathon, they will have an opportunity to represent themselves and talk with the Amazon hiring team. And so I'm really looking forward, and I'm looking for other companies as well who would want to, who are looking for talent, and this could be a great platform doing the job fair with us.
that's insane. I didn't even realize that. Holy cow. What an open door. What an opportunity. All right. Well, speaking of Amazon and technology, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, just before the call, let's get one thing straight. I may produce the call, but I am not the subject matter expert on voice. I am right along with Shamala students on learning how to spell voice. So we are going to talk about technology because some of our students got, there's clubhouse rooms out there, Shamala, and you're part of those clubhouse rooms, and some of the leading voice designers are taking part in these rooms, and they're all over our heads, right? The rest of us are just hanging on by the skin of our teeth. So what I wanted to do is talk about the technologies that are available for the voice designer, how these all work together, and what are the fundamental things that we need to learn about technology as we walk into this profession. Does that sound good to you guys? And if you have questions, we are only streaming on YouTube this morning. So put your questions on through YouTube and we'll get them answered just as quickly as we can. So I'm going to share my screen. And yeah, I hope everybody can see this well, and we'll just blow that up as big as we can. And so we've got this voice tech landscape here, and this is B2B. So is it different when designing for B2C? Are the technologies different? Oh, Shamla, can't hear you.
The use cases may be different, not necessarily the technology. You may still be using some of these technologies. But when we talk about B2B or B2C, it's more like Alexa or Google Assistant or the voice in the car, right? So there
Got it.
may be some use cases which are like slightly different. But what has happened is voice is not limited to your home now. Industries have started picking it up. So voice is being used in healthcare, it is being used in education, in finance, in customer care world, in real estate. I know a person called Bobby Bryant, and he is doing excellent job with voice tech in real estate. So the use cases for those may be slightly different, right? So industry is picking up as well because they have realized there's a lot of potential when it comes to voice technology in general, but also optimizing and scaling their business and adopting voice.
So just out of curiosity, you mentioned, I understand the healthcare. Tell me how voice technology or voice is being used in real estate.
There are quite a
Mhm.
few things, right? I mean, if you want to know listings around you, like show me a listing, or like show me. So
Oh, I see.
it's the same kind of thing. Like you're
Okay.
searching for something. Instead of searching, you're like asking Alexa or your Google Assistant or some other assistant to do that for you, or maybe a real estate website like Zillow, right?
Yeah.
You may ask those to do the same kind of things. Maybe you're not uh, available or don't have a screen in front of you, and you just want to know if there are any new listings which you should be looking at and within your price range or things like that. So there are those kind of things, but also just like what kind of paperwork do I need in order to get a house? Like when we got our house for the first time, there was a lot of things we didn't knew. Like, okay, I just cannot go and buy a house. There has to be an agent involved. It was not like that back in India. So there are these kind of things as well. So there are many things, I would say, lot of things which can be done through voice in the real estate world.
Got it. All right. So when we look at this, let's take a look at they're classified according to vertical and horizontal, and then infrastructure. Can you give us an understanding of what is meant by vertical, horizontal infrastructure? I think we get that's the backbone, right?
Yeah. So see, when I talk about vertical, so vertical is basically you have a domain, healthcare, and a lot of things are being done in healthcare nowadays, right? In the hospital, or even with the consumer, keeping the consumer in mind. So if you talk about in the hospital, voice is being used in the operation theater or is being used in the walk-in kind of setup where your initial information is being used by a voice assistant or is being asked by. So if I go to a hospital right now, there is a nurse who's going to take all of my statistics, like what's my weight today and my blood pressure and all of those things and what I'm here for, right? So all of those things now the voice assistants are capable of doing, or the digital assistant is capable of doing. And another thing, if you look at, is McDonald's have the walkthrough, if you want to drive through, sorry, if you want to order something. So even those kind of things where people are using it. So if you look at verticals, it is basically an industry and how industry is using these voice assistants or conversational AI systems.
Yep.
So that
So,
is what it talks about.
yep.
Now when we
Okay.
talk about horizontal, it's basically voice is being used by marketing folks, voice is being used by customer care folks, it is being used for productivity related things, and a lot is being done in this. Even voice is being used for business intelligence. So a couple of weeks back someone asked me, like, how can we use voice in the business intelligence space? So right now if you are in the business intelligence space, it's lot of data which you have to use and lot of data which you want to slice and dice in order to understand the trends and stuffs like that. You can use voice and you can ask what is the prediction for the next 5 years, or how was our performance the last few years or few months or things like that. So all the things which you are able to do through touch interactions, you are able to do those kind of things using your voice as well. Now customer care, why it is important in the customer care realm, it is being used significantly in that area. And what I would say is, right now what happens is, banks for example, right, if you are calling a banking system, you have to go through a IVR, which is interactive voice responses. So it will say press 1 for this, press 2 for this, and blah blah blah. We all know IVR systems are not yet there, and many people get frustrated and they're like, no, I just want to talk to an agent, like, because it's not natural, it's not like just it's not the same as talking to a human. So that
Right.
is where what happens is, with customer care, there's a lot of opportunity, whether you are working in the healthcare or whether you're working in a finance sector or whichever sector you're working for. Customer care is a significant part of your business. Amazon has done this thing, many companies are doing. So if someone if let's say I want to return a product or I want to inquire about a product, I have to go to Amazon. Either I have to call them or I have to go through some sort of query system, right? I will email them or something along those lines. Now we also have chatbots, but many people want to use a voice because voice gives them that kind of satisfaction that, okay, I'm talking to a person. And if you make it really natural, leveraging the infrastructure and technologies which we have, you can do a significant job with how you are making it sound or how interactive you are making it. And with all of those things, now people will want to, for so if there are repetitive kind of tasks, I would say, right? For example, if the Amazon is getting where is my package, or I want a refund, these are like very common kind of use cases. For those kind of use cases, you don't really need an agent, a real person, to actually help you out, because there is some sort of methodology in place, like these are the 6 or 7 things which people may ask for. So you can automate those things using voice or conversational systems and leverage it in the customer care. You are significantly reducing the cost, operational cost, and also the infrastructure part of things, like how many members do you need and all of those things. But also you're significantly dropping the call volumes and all of those things, and you are quickly able to help the users instead of having them to wait for hours and hours before you do that. And you are saying that, okay, we have a high volume right now, we will call you back and stuffs like that. So these are all ways you can help the customer, and that is why customer support is a very, very significant area where companies have started to pick voice assistants and conversational AI systems. Marketing, again, right? It's the same.
Yeah, and I would think that there, because I noticed that I made a new rule, Shamala, that if a company and a website does not include a phone number, because many do not anymore, or an email for support, I won't work with that company. They are so heavily relied on their online capability of supporting, and that often includes a chat, which to me is still very frustrating, right? Because you're not able to get where you need to go as quickly as you would be with a human. And so what I'm hearing is that this customer support capability is continually evolving, right? To reduce that level of frustration from the user. And
Definitely.
yeah. So if you're so when you let's talk about the infrastructure now. So this would be the backbone, right? Of
Mhm.
of the solution, correct? This is
Yeah.
what houses everything. So what does a voice interaction designer need to understand about infrastructure when they're designing?
They need to know everything. It's not necessarily that they'll be working with each of these things, but like we spoke in previous episodes as well, understanding the basic technology is really important. The user should be the aspiring designer needs to understand how the speech, what is speech to text, and what does it do. And they also need to understand the natural language understanding and natural language processing piece of things. They also need to understand the text to speech. They also need to understand what platforms are there which you can develop for example, Alexa, Google, and Siri, and Bixby. These are some platforms which are available for creating third party custom skills or actions or capsules, right? But you can also create your own custom, and you can create your own custom voice assistant using any other technology you want. So that is why knowing which speech to take. So for example, in the autonomous, when I'm designing, I have to think about which speech to text will we use, what natural language understanding will we use, what text to speech understanding will we use. So knowing those things really helps as a designer, because you are understanding the capabilities of the platforms available to you or the infrastructure available to you, and also how it works. So when you are designing, you're not designing in silo, but you're designing keeping those technologies in mind, and knowing like, oh, this is how the speech to text works, so these may work, these may not work, and this is how I'll have to do.
So
Now,
not only that, but I'm thinking, Shamala, you're having to come up with all of this, but now you've got the rest of the vehicle that somehow has to interact with the technology that you're choosing. How challenging is that? Or is it two
oh,
separate systems?
that's too challenging. That's too challenging. Not only with vehicle, but also with anyone wanting to design their own custom. For example, the McDonald one or any other, they have to think about. For example, vehicle has a different architecture. Vehicle has its own components. You need to make sure the technology you're using is able to support your vehicle architecture, vehicle system, and your vehicle's operating system, and all sorts of things. It's the same with anything else. So there's a lot of complexity which goes into all of these things. So a designer needs to be aware of these things. They may not necessarily work on the speech to text, or they may not work on the other aspects directly, like improving the speech to text or something like that, or building the speech to text, but having an understanding helps. However, they need to have a very, very strong understanding of the prototyping and design tools, because that is what they will be using to create their conversational designs and flows and prototypes. So we have three capstone projects. We use Bot Society, we use BotMock, and we use VoiceFlow. So these are the three conversational platforms which we use. And thanks to our sponsors, they have been very generous to give us education license so that our students can leverage pro features through the course.
So those technologies would fall in which of these areas? Horizontal, and are
So
they
the technology mostly is agnostic to whether it is horizontal or whether it is vertical, because you can use it for creating custom skills or actions. You can use it to create your customer care. You can use it to create your messenger bots. So
oh,
Orbita, however, if you see this thing, Orbita,
yeah,
however, is one which
yeah,
is used for healthcare heavily. They were designed for healthcare in to start with, but now they have opened it up for others to use as well.
interesting. Okay, well, good to know. So, where does somebody begin to understand? I mean, this is a lot. This is a lot of options, right? What is the best way for them to even begin learning about this technology?
Yeah, so definitely, there's a lot of information available out there. If they want to learn, uh, they can go and search for these kind of things. Google has a lot of information. There are a lot of great blogs where they can go and learn. And if they want, but they are all over the place. You will not get one place where you can learn everything. So if you are looking for a place where you can learn everything, that is why, and that is where the Digital Assistant Academy comes into play, because the way we have structured the course is you not only get to understand the verticals and horizontals aspects of things like the use cases and all, you get to understand the technologies and how it works. You get to fiddle around with some of those, play around with it, and get in-depth knowledge about each of the technology aspects. But you also get to play around with the conversational platforms like BotMock, Bot Society, and VoiceFlow, which are our sponsors, and then use them to create your own conversational platform. So that will give you a more structured learning. If you are willing to spend 24 weeks of your time, then I would say like go for a course like that, which will give you the entire aspect of conversational and voice tech design.
Okay. So when we're designing for I'm just putting myself in the shoes of a learner here. So and what we learn in these schools is what we take with us on the job, right? I mean, that's our foundation. So as we're going into organizations and we're looking at positions, and qualifying if this is a job that we want to take, what are some of the questions that we should be asking that hiring manager that are specific to technology, that we know that these people know what they're doing? And I'll tell you, that's really a big issue, right? Because if the designer's portfolio isn't current on not only their capabilities, but the technologies that they use, they will become irrelevant very quickly in the marketplace. So, what are some of the questions that we should be asking candidates, or we should be asking hiring managers about the technology that they'll be working with? Besides, what technology are you working with? What should we be listening for?
So I would say it should not be a matter when it comes to technology, because if you understand as a designer, if you understand how these technologies work and you know how to work within constraints, because not every technology is 100% perfect, they have their own shortfalls. So that shouldn't be a problem. But what you should be asking the hiring manager is, how is this product helping the users? Like, why are you doing this? Because see, it's like there are two kind of people. One, because this is a hype and a lot of people are talking about it, I just have to jump into it, right? And there are these other kind of people who have really wasted their time, effort. They have a clear vision of why they want to get involved in conversational AI systems to start with. So you need to really understand what problem they are trying to solve in first place and why they are doing it. Because if they have a clear vision, then it will be easy for you to work with them and easy for you to start designing. Because if they are all over the place and they don't know, like, okay, we don't know the vision because X company is doing or our competitor is doing it, we just want to do it, that's it, then well, you will have a lot of challenges to advocate for conversational AI in first place or to get things in place. Not that Another thing to keep in mind is most of the companies are unaware of conversational systems in general. If they knew, they would not be looking for a support as such. They can just have internal folks do it, and many companies are doing it. They're just training their internal UX designers or having them to just get into like on field job kind of thing. Many companies want you to come and advocate, and that is what is happening outside of Amazon, Google's, and these big tech companies. There are many companies who don't know anything about conversational AI system. They may have a vision like, I want to create conversational system to reduce the to optimize the efficiency or increase the efficiency in the customer care or in the healthcare space. They have a vision, but we don't know where to start, how to start, and that is where you become an advocate. So knowing how these technologies work can be, you know what, I know the best way to go about it. Either we can create a skill, or we can create an action, or we can create a custom assistant. So depending on the budget they have, of course these are not the things you will ask in the interview, but this is the strategy and approach you should have. Like, I am the right person to help you out with this thing. So knowing these things will definitely help.
So the question then becomes to that hiring manager, what conversational AI system do you have in place?
Yes.
So
Even if they
let's
have, if they have, do they have a team, and how many people, what kind of things are they doing? And knowing those things will help you. Like, are you the only designer, or will there be a team of people already aware and available out there, right? So that's the thing.
So there are inherent benefits and challenges to being the only person on a voice design solution, right? So, what are some of the things if you are going to be the only conversational AI designer on a project? What are things that they need to either know before accepting beyond these questions here? And what are some don't go there, right? These are things that are complete turnoffs if you're going to be in that spot.
um I mean, it all depends on the personality and your vision, what you want to do. Are you a self starter, or are you a person who likes just working with a team and just supporting it? Because
Mhm.
if you are a self starter, you would be really thinking about doing things by yourself. It gives a lot of pride if you are the only designer trying to do something. There was a time when I had multiple offers from companies, and so one of the company, I had I was like one of the designer there working on their enterprise. That was the offer. But Ford, I was the only designer working on conversational systems, so that makes so much difference. Like, the only for me was, you know was the deal breaker, I would say, because then it was like, this is my baby. I have a playground, and I'm doing everything from the scratch. This is my baby. I'm going to do the right thing for it. I will do whatever technology or whatever is required. So that is how I think about it. If you are like me, I would say that there will be challenges, of course, because you have to work with stakeholders, convince them throughout, define the right kind of strategies, and then you have to, throughout, there will be a lot of pushbacks, which any company would have, and you need to be able to sort those things out. Like, okay, if I'm getting pushback, how do I convince them, or what should the trade-off be, and things like that. If you know all of these things, you would enjoy being the only designer in any company, because yeah, that gives a lot of, I would say, pleasure, just being the only. But if you are a person who are not like a self starter, you need someone to work with, then I feel like it will be very difficult for you to sustain and survive in that kind of environment where you are the only one. People are looking up to you for everything. You have to keep up with everything. You have to create a lot of strategies and all of those things. So it will become overwhelming for you. So you need to really, first of all, understand what you want in your career, and based on that you have to approach, like, okay, are you willing to be the only designer and taking up these responsibilities? Because I have seen people who are both. kind of things, who like being self starters. I've also seen people who don't want to be in the forefront of everything. They just want to be, somewhere in the team just working on it. Depending on your vision, just go with it.
Um, so I think that, thank you for that. So I think that there is a question about investment that I would suggest that candidates ask the hiring manager, and I'm typing it here, so that's why my eyes are not on you guys, but no, my eyes are always on you. I think one of the key questions to ask is whether you are going to be in there on your own or whether you're going to be part of a team. One of the questions that I really ask every hiring manager is, what's the investment in the product? What's the investment in the process? What's the investment in the tools? What's the investment in research and testing? All of that. So I don't care how many people are on this team or if you're by yourself. If there is going to be no investment, right? If they're not vested in this effort, meaning they've got to fork over some change, right? To get every tool and resource that you need to deliver a great product. I can't imagine that an organization like Ford would want to shortchange any part of the conversational AI design process for an autonomous vehicle. There is no cutting corners there. This is not a website you're designing.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. That's a
And
great point.
I think that's the number one question. I don't care what your role is. I don't care how many people you're working with or not. If you are not going to be supported in this, you're going to be part of a product that's going to fail.
Absolutely. That's a very, very valuable like input which you have given, like investment. It's important. So that is why I told you right in the beginning, like how vested are they? Are they just doing it for the sake of doing, or are they really, thinking about it?
Yeah. And believe it or not, we've only got a couple of minutes left here. So I want to round this out with a couple of more interview questions that people can ask. Shamala, so when you are interviewing a hiring manager, and you know that that's true on your side of the desk, given even before you had multiple offers, right? Before you are who you are, became today, you were interviewing the company. What were some of the questions that really were important to have answered?
So, see, couple of things. Uh, I would say this applies to any role. It's not dedicated to a conversational designer role as such. I usually give problems. I give any kind of design problem, and I would try to understand, the user's mindset, like how they are approaching the problem. Are you jumping all over the place, or do you have a clear thought process when you are talking or presenting things? So that is very, very important. So sometimes what I do is I ask multiple questions in one question, right? And I'm trying to understand, like, are they able to answer all of those things, or are they just answering one question? Because if you have listened, that is the first and most important skill for anyone to have. If you have listened the question carefully, and you have heard that I have asked four questions in one, and your structure is like you've answered the first, and then you got to the second, the third, and fourth, that means you have a clear thought process, you have the listening skills required, you have the skills to gather the right kind of requirements and respond back to them. And those I would say, are really important. But at the same time, when I'm giving design exercises, I would try to give feedbacks, and then I will try to ask them why they have done it this way, why they have not done it this way, and things like that. Because when you are critiquing someone, that is the time you would know how the person is responding, right? And whether they get annoyed. And throughout your career, whether you are a conversational designer, UX designer, or whichever designer, there will be a lot of feedback through from your stakeholders. How do you take that? Do you just take those and respond back, or how are you going about it? It's really important. So I would say those kind of questions are very, very important, regardless of who which role you are applying for.
That is really interesting. I would have never thought to ask questions to see what the threshold of pain is for the hiring manager. So if they're enthusiastic about asking those questions, you know that they're going to be engaged once you are there on board. Yeah.
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. Because see, that tells that the person is curious, ambitious, have the right kind of things. Any project will need to have a lot of requirement gathering. You need to do the deep dive. You need to do a lot of things in there, right? Are you directly jumping? So I was doing campus recruitments for Amazon once, and we were hiring for UX designers. So I went to this Indian Institute of Technology campus, and then we had a lot of designers. So I asked the same question, and my questions are very vague. They are not like I would not ask them to design a product or something. So my question was like, you need to design a swimming pool. How would you go about it? So some people were like, okay, they just drew a swimming pool like and just had like 100 different features in there. That's it. There were like two or three people who really stood out because they asked me like, is this a redesign or is this a new design, and what is the budget and what are the timelines, and then they are like, is it kid friendly, what is the purpose of the swimming pool, and all of those things. So when they were asking those questions, then I knew like,
You knew.
okay, this person is the person who's going to be successful in a job, because any job, whether you are a conversational designer or any other designer, you need to have your requirements clear, your thought process clear, and all. So of course they got the offer. That's the thing. But even coming from the same set of designer mindset and the same institute which produces designer, not everyone is thinking. So part of it is your personality. Your functional skills can be taught to you, but the non-functional skills cannot be. So that is something which you inherit.
And that number one functional skill that cannot be taught is curiosity.
That's true.
That's an innate
That's true.
quality.
That's
We
true.
are at 30 minutes. Thank you all for joining us again on this Voice Chat Friday. We will see you next Friday. And I just want to remind everybody that Monday is the cutoff for the Hackabot. More information will be provided on Shamala's webpage, the digital assistant, LinkedIn, and webpage. I'll get it out on mine, and hopefully we will see you there. And Amazon's going to have a feeding frenzy of candidates. I hope there's other companies there that will join the feeding frenzy, because that's going to be fun. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.